What's up YouTube, Dell here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you the Dark Magician profile that a lot of you have been requested, and that is going to be the Primite version, so Dark Magician Primite. Now, as a disclaimer, this version, in my opinion, if you were just to play Dark Magician with either Primite, Shining Sarcophagus, your Azaminas or King Sarcophagus, is probably one of the weaker ones in regards to trying to kickstart your Dark Magician of Destruction plays. However, there are some very interesting kind of combinations that the Primite package can provide you in order to give you the maximum outcome and give you a couple of different forms of disruption. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the entire main deck, the extra deck, a demo side deck, and even talk to you about some other cards I'm considering adding into the deck that might give it a different bit of an approach as well. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the Dark Magician lineup. Now, most of this is going to be pretty standard as I've already shown before, so I'm just going to blitz over them quickly. So 2 Dark Magician, 3 Magician Souls, 2 Illusion of Chaos, and 1 Preparation of Rites. Like, this is all relatively straightforward. Some builds will play less Magician Souls, but the reason I think Magician Souls is probably more important in this build is the fact that Magician Souls gets you direct access to Dark Magician. You then get direct access to either summon a Dark Magician or you summon the Souls. Souls can send you stuff like Drill Beam for a free draw, and then you recycle it with the barrel, which is really, really kind of cool. So, like, I'd be more than happy to play 3 of this, and the way that I've always tried to explain it is in other builds of Dark Magician, the reason you would play 3 Soul Servant, 3 Magician Souls, and 3 Rods is because in those versions, your Rod was your main normal summon. It's like the only card in the deck you want to normal summon. Yeah, a lot of people will say, yeah, but you just search it off Dark Magician of Destruction. Very, very true. But if your Dark Magician of Destruction gets disrupted and you don't have a Magician's Rod, where do you go from there? So it's always about having those contingencies. Like, I would much rather open up a Magician's Rod and route to my Dark Magician of Destruction, and my opponent interact my Dark Magician of Destruction, which is going to happen more times than not, and I then just go, okay, cool, normal summon Rod, and then get me Gaze. So I'm still in the exact same position that I want it to be, and I just get that ability to make a Link 2 as well to extend my field presence. Speaking of Magician's Rod, this is the only version so far that you play less Magician's Rod, and that's just for the pure fact that you kind of don't, like, if you do open up Magician's Rod and Beryl, you also need to open up an extender in either Dark Magician or route to Dark Magician of Chaos or a route to Magician's Souls, and the reason you would do that is you go into your Misama, and going into your Necromancer, this then gives you the ability to get the additional normal summon of Magician's Rod and then tick everything off. But the point is that by the time you get to that position, you would have searched off of Dark Magician Destruction, and that's when you lean into the search a little bit more. And it's one of these ones that I kind of thought, well, would I rather have 3 Soul Servant or would I rather have 3 Magician's Rod? And I ultimately thought, well, the fact is that the Illusion of Chaos can be Rod or Souls. Soul Servant could technically, with how easy it is to get access to a Dark Magician in the graveyard through Beryl, the ability to get access to Rod or Souls. So it kind of felt that I could reduce the consistency and reliance on Rod and then still utilize the consistency of Soul Servant and everything else in between. 1 Tomodachi United Dragon is a 42 card build, so if you wanted to cut this card out completely, you can do. I just still like it as another way to either extend to the field if I get rid of a Dark Magician spell or trap, or just extend to the field to make a stronger monster if I get rid of a Rod or a Souls, and then it still has that inbuilt fusion effect as well, which is really, really important. Then for the spell cards, 3 Soul Servant, pretty straightforward on most builds on this one. Again, this is because it's a Dark Magician focused build. A lot of builds out there will be 60 card piles where it's like, hey, look, I pay 10 Dark Magician cards, 10 Beryl, Primite cards, 10 Azamina cards, and 10 Shining Sarcophagus cards, and then 20 non-engine cards. Absolutely fine, but to me, that's not a Dark Magician deck. That's like a pile deck. A Dark Magician deck is where you have like 10 to 15 cards, or like more than 10 cards, 15 to 20 cards of Dark Magician cards, and you're focusing on a Dark Magician strategy, not just using it as the Dark Magician of Destruction mini-engine. Going back to 2 Gaze of Timaeus, I think 2 is more than enough. You only really need 3 in a massive, massive grind game, and ultimately in this particular version, you shouldn't need to get to that position. The best thing about the grind game on this one is that your barrels and your drill beams just constantly keep recycling themselves, and eventually you start to wear your opponent down. They got the 1 Dark Magic Circle and the 1 Secrets of Dark Magic. I actually don't mind playing Dark Magical Circle, especially because I'm playing Selene in the extra deck again. I think that it's still a very, very good option to get to Selene, especially when you're already playing stuff like Roars, you're playing Lordy Loads, you're playing Drill Beams. You could even play the Counter Trap card for your Primites, which is something I might consider. Right now I'm playing 3 Dragon's Mind, but I quite like the idea of playing one of the Primite trap card, like counter trap card. But only the way I looked at it is like, the only time I'd ever want to search that counter trap card is if I already open up Drill Beam. Like, I still think Drill Beam is probably the better option, just because it's constant recyclability, the quick play spell card as well. But maybe the counter trap might be an option to utilize. One Eternal Soul, I'm still not like sold to this card right now. Like, I don't think it is as important as it used to be. I kind of feel like there's a little bit of jealousy to the True Light that Blue Eyes has, because it's Eternal Soul, but better. And I really wish Eternal Soul was that. And I feel that it's one of these ones where I think we got Eternal Soul first, and they were like, yeah, okay, we can maybe ramp this up one more stage for Blue Eyes, and then that's kind of what happened. But Eternal Soul is still quite good, being able to search out, and it's probably more important with the side deck card, because I am siding in the one copy of Dark Magic Attack. So it's probably quite important for that one, like getting searchable Harpy's Feather Duster, and also being able to bring back the Dark Magician from the graveyard can be really important, because that can help you trigger off your Dark Magical Circle, which is ultimately going to end up giving you that ability to disrupt your opponent to a better degree. So that's it for the Dark Magician cards themselves. Moving on to the Primite package. So for the Primite package, I've gone with 3 Ether Barrel. So this is your main normal summon that you want to be utilizing. 3 Lordy Loads, 1 Drill Beam, and 1 Roar. Now, I did highly consider, this is the other engine. These cards aren't part of the main deck, but this is something that I've talked about with Christian and some other guys at the Dark Magician community, so massive shout out to all those guys. I still couldn't really figure out where the Primite engine fits. Like, if you just wanted to play Dark Magician Primite, I feel, and I agree with Christian and the rest of the guys on this one, is that the Primites are better in supporting a 45 to 50 card Dark Magician build where you do play Azaminas or you do play Shining Sarcophagus. I'm not the biggest fan of playing Azaminas and Shining Sarcophagus for the pure fact that both those engines require you to use a discard. So at no point is it a beneficial like consistency buff to play a 50 to 60 card build but play more engines. Like, you might as well play that one less engine and then cut your consistency down to a 40 card deck, because then you'll be in a much better position. But the idea behind the Primite package is that you go normal summon Ether Barrel, work your way into Lordy Load. Lordy Load lets you add a Primite card, so you get to add the Primite Roar. You use your drill bit, your Ether Barrel to tribute itself off to send a normal monster from deck to grave. Then you've got no more monsters on the field, so you can activate the Primite Roar, get you Dark Magician to the field, banish the Dark Magician, and go into Dark Magician of Destruction. So that's like your little loop of play. But in that particular route, you completely bypass Drill Beam, which I think is the more important part of Primites. So in order for you to do that, you need to open up a combination of 2 Primite cards. And the most consistent way, and the best ones you're going to want to be playing multiples of rather than Drill Beam and Roar, is you'd be a lot happier playing multiples of Lordy Load and Barrel. So you still need to open up a Barrel plus a Lordy Load in order to kind of get you into that position that you want to be pushing for. So I'm not completely set on this. There's still a lot more to change. Another option card that you can put into here is the Primite Fusion. And the way that you play the Primite Fusion in the exact same kind of combo way, the benefit is this adds a Hieratic Seals to the end field. Because you'd go normal summon Primite Ether Barrel, grab yourself your Primite Fusion, and in a better scenario, you can go for Lordy Load into Barrel, Barrel into Fusion, because you set the Fusion, whereas you can't go the other way around to get the Roar, because you set the Roar, and because it's a quick play, you can't use it that turn. But the idea would be, if you went with the Primite Fusion, it gives you that ability to then go Primite Ether Barrel, links off into the Spirit with Eyes of Blue. Spirit of Eyes of Blue grabs you the Mausoleum. Mausoleum sends you the Dark Magician from deck to grave. Then you activate the Primite Fusion using the Blue Eyes Link 1, which currently locks you into dragons and the Dark Magician in the graveyard. You go into the Primite... you use the Barrel in the graveyard and you use the Dark Magician in the graveyard to go into the Primite Fusion monster. And then you link off the Primite Fusion monster and the Blue Eyes Link 1 to go into the Hieratic Seals. And in doing so, you can then use the Primite Fusion monster to then float into a Dark Magician from the deck. So you get yourself out of the Dragon Lock, you add Hieratic Seals to your end field, which is quite nice to have. And then you also get access to your Dark Magician of Destruction. So it works, it's just a little bit further into a combo. It's nicer because you don't need to rely on Primite Roar. It's nicer because you can go from Barrel to Lordy Load to Primite Fusion, and you can go from Lordy Load to Barrel to Primite Fusion, whereas you can't do it that way with Roar. So it's definitely something that I would consider, and it's probably something where I might consider not playing Roar in the place of the Primite Fusion. It's then just finding the space to play another brick in Mausoleum of White, and then playing 2 cards in the extra deck that are a little bit okay, plus the Fusion Monster. So you take up 3 extra deck slots, and ultimately I felt that I wanted to keep this very, very simple. Like, I actually feel that with the build, because I'm still playing Ready Fusion, I already still have a way to get me to the Dark Magician Destruction. So you can, of course, use Primite Lordy Load. You can, of course, use it to special summon Dark Magician from the deck and then turn it to Dark Magician Destruction. The issue is you can't use Dark Magician's Destruction's effect if you do it that way. So it's very, very specific in the way that it wants you to push. And again, I think the Primite package works so much better in Blue Eyes, just because the whole Dragon locks and everything else that it puts it in just benefits Blue Eyes so much more. The only benefit you'd use the second effect of Lordy Load would be to get your Dark Magician from the field to the graveyard, from the deck to the field, so that your Drill Beam is live. So it's one of these ones where it's like, okay, cool, do I need to access the Dark Magician of Destruction route? Yes. Okay, well, normal summon Beryl, tribute off, send Dark Magician from deck to grave, go through Primite Raw. Have I already got access to the Dark Magician of Destruction plays because I've already opened up my Ready Fusion, or I've already opened up Souls to get me to Dark Magician plus a spell card, or you name it? And you still also want to try and avoid, where possible, banishing your Dark Magician, because you're only playing 2, and it's not the easiest to recycle, but there are ways that you can recycle from the graveyard. But the idea is, if you've already opened up a way to get to your Dark Magician's Destruction, then you're going to go straight for Drill Beam. And Drill Beam is an amazing card to have in rotation. If you don't have access to it, that's when you need to shift and you need to go down the Primite Raw version, unless you're going to go down the Primite Fusion version, which just, again, bloats up the extra deck a little bit more. Continue on with the non-engine, 3 Mulchomi Fuelos, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and then because you can't really afford to play Dominus Impulse in this particular version, because obviously Aether Beryl is an Earth and that clashes with the Impulse, I decided to take out the 3 Impulses and go for 3 Bestials. So you've got the Magnemute, the Druid Swarm and the Bulldrake. All 3 of these are going to be very, very effective for you. These are going to give you a bit more ability to disrupt your opponent. These will really come down to the environment, which will get them a bit more effective. But then that kind of comes down to, if the environment is not good for it at all, then you could afford to take these 3 of these out. You'd put in 3 more non-engine. They could be Nibiru's, they could be DD Crows if you want to be a little bit spicy. They can also be Drone Lockbirds, or of course it opens up the space for your Primite Fusion and your field spell as well. So a couple of different options depending on which route you want to go down. And then the final non-engine that I'm playing is 3, the Fallen and the Virtuous. I just think it's an incredibly good card. It's so balanced for going first or second. The fact that it also opens up the door to your Ecclesia, which can be a shuffle back. It's basically one card in one single copy of the Fallen and the Virtuous leads you to 3 disruptions, because you'd have the first Fallen and the Virtuous, you'd then have the second Fallen and the Virtuous that you get, and then you'd have the Ecclesia to recycle, which is just absolutely mental in today's game states. So that's it for the entire main deck, non-engine, and the Primite package. Now to show you the extra deck, and then I will show you the demo side deck as well. So for the extra deck, we've got 1 Dark Magician of Destruction. I think this is more than enough, to be honest. I don't think you really need to be getting 2. If you're able to pick 2 up at a cheap price, and then you feel that the hype price right now is worth selling, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think that's quite a good way of doing it. But honestly, 1, more than enough. 1 Timaeus United Dragon, this is one of those flex spots that would become the Primite Fusion Monster. You then just need to find 2 more flex spots in this extra deck, which is quite easy to do, and I'll talk you through them as we go. 1 Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight, like being able to stop your Drill Beam from being destroyed, meaning that you don't have to waste it on negating something like a Harpy's Feather Duster or negating a Lightning Storm is actually pretty funny. 1 Dark Magicians, this is probably one of these ones you can flex out if you wanted to, but I still like the idea that I can draw during my turn and then draw during my opponent's turn. And when I'm searching out quick plays, it means I could activate Primite Raw if the scenario allowed it, or I could search out or like draw off the Drill Beam and use that. I could draw off the Fallen and Virtuous and use that. The Gaze of Timaeus, use that. Like, there's loads of different options you could use, which I really, really like it. 1 Master of Chaos, I am still playing the Artemis in the extra deck, so it's just a very quick, easy way to get access to a light monster. Using Master of Chaos going second and just clear the entire field off. And then, of course, the almighty, all-powerful Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Kind of the reason that you want to be going into this, and it's also the reason, unfortunately, why the Dark Magician Destruction engine is being used as an abusable package. But the idea is Dragoon is just your ace monster in this particular deck. I do feel that you can play away from it, which you'll see in the Genesis profile coming out tomorrow. But the idea is that this really does give you your best lineup of Dark Magicians. You've got Go First, you've got Go Second, you've got Draw Power, you've got Spell and Trap Protection, you've got the ability of Spell and Trap Disruption, as well as a card that will bypass the effect of Gaze of Timaeus. And then you've got Dark Magician of Destruction, which makes all of this consistently viable. The one Sandwich, which is your ready fusion target, one Chaos Angel, so Dark Magician plus Rod, very, very easy to make. And then making sure all of your monsters couldn't be destroyed by battle does make it very, very difficult for your opponent to just like one shot and try and push through. Then we've got the one Ecclesia and the one Albion, which are your two targets off of the Fallen and the Virtuous. And then the final cards we are playing is the one Artemis, the Moon Maiden, literally just going into this to get your light monster on the field. Then we've got the one Necromancer. So it requires 2 monsters, including a Dark Spellcaster, which is why Magician's Soul is quite important. But if it is Link Owned, you get to add a level 5 or higher Dark Spellcaster from the grave to the hand. But you cannot activate the effects of the cards with that name for the rest of the turn. You get to send a spell or trap from the hand or field to the graveyard immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon a Spellcaster. Now the benefit of something like this is, again, you can recycle the Drill Beam, but you also have that additional benefit that the Primite combo, unlike the Azamina combo and the Shining Sarcophagus combo, doesn't require a discard. So the discard you would use on those, you could technically use on this, and you'll still net whatever you need to be. So then the final 3 cards is IP into SP or into Selene. And again, you've got that flexible option. If you're like, I don't need or I don't want to play the Selene version, which brings back Dragoon or brings back Dark Magician, I'd much rather just go straight for SP. Then there you go. That's one spot you could free up. If you're not the biggest fan of the Fallen and Virtuous package, that's 2 more spots you can free up. But ultimately, you'd probably be looking at like these 3 spots here that would then ultimately end up becoming your Hieratic Seals, your Blue Eyes Link one, and then your Primite Fusion monster. So like there's a base option you could look at and go, okay, I can see those as a fair trade-off. So that's it for the main and the extra. Now to show you the side deck, very straightforward on this one and very, very narrowed down. So 3 Mulchami Perulia, 3 Nibiru, 2 Dry and Lockbird, 1 Dark Magic Attack, 3 Evenlies, and 3 Dragon's Mind. Now with the Primites, you could again very, very easily argue to play the 1 Counter Trap, and then only what you would do is rather than siding in 3 Dragon's Mind, if you're going first, you could side in 2 Dragon's Mind and 1 of the Primite Counter Trap card. And then you just got that ability to search it if you want to. But in a dream scenario, you open up a Dragon's Mind plus Root to Drill Beam. That's like godly. If not, then you're relying that you go for the counter trap card as well, because that would just be the end of the combo play. And it means nothing more could be chained, whereas with Drill Beam, you can continue to chain and get off the field and everything else in between. So that's it for the entire main deck, the extra deck, the side deck, everything you really need to know. I can actually visualize the combo for you as well now, just so you have a bit of an idea. I feel that that kind of completes the play that you're going to be looking for. So you start off with your Primite Ether Barrel. I'm just going to zoom this out a little bit. So you start with your Primite Ether Barrel. You do then need to go and grab your Lordy Load. Your Lordy Load can then be activated to add you your Primite Roar. Now, it's a bit of a shame because, like I said, if you do it the other way and you open up Lordy Load, search out Ether Barrel, normal the Ether Barrel, Barrel needs to place or set the Primite spell card. So you can't activate Roar, which is where the fusion comes into play being better. But then what you need to do is you need to clear your field off. So you use your Ether Barrel's effect to tribute it off to put Dark Magician in the graveyard, which is currently over here. So you put Dark Magician in the graveyard. There we go. You've got a clear field. You activate your Primite Roar. Pay 2,000 life points to declare a normal monster. The declared normal monster or Primite monster you control cannot be destroyed by battle until the end of your opponent's turn. And if you control no monsters, you special summon the monster from the deck in defense position. So this is going to get you access to your second Dark Magician. So you now have both of them in rotation. This is the only thing, the other thing I don't like about it is I've paid 2,000 life points. I'm then going to have to banish my Dark Magician in order to get me access to the Dark Magician of Destruction. So I'm like, right, well, I've already lost a Dark Magician permanently. But then from this point on, your Dark Magician of Destruction gets you into Rod, wherever it may be. It'll get you into Rod. Actually, no, it wouldn't get you into Rod, it'll get you into Souls. So it can get you into Souls or it can get you into Gaze. It doesn't make much of a difference where you go for it. Like the only benefit of Souls, actually we can't use Souls because you've already gone through the thing. And then your Dark Magician of Destruction would go and grab you your Gaze. You'd activate Gaze, putting the Dark Magician in the graveyard back into the deck, and then you'd add yourself onto the field a Dark Magician of, or Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, sorry. So you'd still have 4 more cards in your hand to play around with, but the idea is that I'm not the biggest fan of this because it means you have to use Gaze first to put the Dark Magician back into the deck if you've got a Magician Souls. You can't really get this off the field until later on. Yes, of course, I can use the Lordy Load to get the Dark Magician back from the graveyard if I really, really need to, but ultimately, the only benefit of doing that is if I have Drill Beam in rotation, which is why playing this Primite package with the, like an Azamina or with the Shrine Sarcophagus package is going to be more beneficial for you. Just because you've got more consistency to get you into Dark Magician Destruction, you get a bit more off of the back of your Primite cards, it means you can also afford to go down the Drill Beam route, which is why it makes it better to be played with the Azamina package, because then you'd go, cool, all Azamina package, get you into your Sylvie. Normal Summon Beryl, work your way into Drill Beam. Then you start setting up your Dark Magician of Destruction. You've got your Dark Magician in rotation. You then add everything to it. So your end field would end up being something like a Sylvie, plus a Dragoon, plus Drill Beam active, plus something else you might need. So I can see where you're adding layers to it, but in my personal preference, and that's exactly what this is just personal preference, I would much rather have my hand being a Dominus Impulse, or my set being a Dominus Impulse rather than the Drill Beam, but have been able to add Dragoon, Sylvie. So I would have Dragoon, Sylvie, and Impulse rather than Dragoon, Sylvie, and Drill Beam. The only biggest difference, which is probably something that would like lead you a bit more towards the Primite package, is the fact that you can recycle the Drill Beam pretty much endlessly. And that bit I fully understand, and that bit is what would tempt me to play the Primite package. I'm just a bit of a stickler for being able to go, cool, Normal Summon Magician's Rod, and then build on from there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you're giving this a bit of a breakdown of the Primite version as well. Like I said, the Genesis version is going to come out tomorrow as well, so you've pretty much had everything so far. You've had the Sark build, you've had the Azamina build, you've now got the Primite build, you'll then get a Genesis build, and then hopefully we're going to be going back to other Maze and Wurtos content until I get this in a position where I'm ready to take it to higher local environments, move it into the regional scene, and then, as I've already kind of planned to do, this is going to be my deck going forward, is going to be Dark Magician. I'm still going to dip back into Dark Lords and everything else in between to kind of break up a little bit, but this is what I want to be aiming for. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.